All right, so what's up, guys? Whoever's watching. I made a previous video about this book, just talking about the beginning chapter, just on he was just Tom Fox Draws anatomy book, and it was just talking about mostly about his principles when drawing and levels of detail and things like that. So I was just talking about, just the beginning chapters of the book. But in this video, I actually wanted to go in and start like drawing from the book, because I don't really see any videos of people studying the illustrations or anything in this book, or just like, reading through it and drawing through it. Like I see some people, I guess, have some illustrations on it, but I just wanted to go through the entire book, like, make a video series just going through the entire book, like drawing from the front to the back. Sort of treat it like a class. It's sort of like because I want to learn anatomy like constructively and be able to build it up from different angles and draw from imagination and things like that. I'm sure that's why a lot of people are buying this book. It's not like a traditional anatomy book. So that's what I kind of wanted to do today. I have these two brush pens, because in the book, like it seemed like the theme is like the orange and the black. So I got these, and I got a new sketchbook, well, a drawing book, because I had a sketchbook over there, but I got a drawing book with the paper is a bit thicker, so I can use like pens like these and then use the back of the page without like having, complete bleed through. So yeah, let's just get into it. So right here it says starting the head, right? Now we're going to look at the head as we go along. Don't forget to think and form, not line. Every line should represent a physical object, not a symbol. Image, not a symbol. Image, if you could explode each. Imagine if you could explode each form and visualize what lies beneath the surface. We'll start with a cube form, which clearly represents the XYZ axis in space. Take the cube and push it from the sides to give it more height and width. Some people's heads are quite square, but generally they are taller than they are wide. Right? So, and I like in this book because when he gives you these little excerpts, these little tips, I'm not gonna say excerpts, these little tips, he, links them with illustration. So when it'll have like the beginning at the, it'll tell you the whole tip, and then it'll be a letter that'll be connecting to an illustration. So this is just how it looks like exploded. And then the second tip was this squashing the cube. This I think he gets into more complex things like this later on. So I just want to focus on that squashed cube right first. So basically, and I guess a forward before getting into a book like this, you should just have some sort of knowledge about perspective, because that's all this book is about. All the illustrations are talking about, drawing the figure in perspective. That's the only thing. Like this, that's the the cocoon of this book is perspective. And then once you break back that cocoon, then you can, the more you understand the cocoon, the more you can understand this book. So it's good to have a general knowledge, general knowledge of perspective if you're trying to draw any sort of imaginative, any sort of art. Really, you should have some sort of knowledge of that. To me personally, just at least, you don't have to be doing 5-point perspectives and doing different lenses and whatever, drawing these complex grids and doing these like finding the surface the surface space of like a cube or something, trying to break down a cube. Yeah, you know, you don't have to do all those sort of things. You can just have, you know, 1, 2, 3 point perspective knowledge. Just, you know, matching lines with vanishing points. So I'm gonna start with the squash cube, right? So this face right here. So first I'm gonna just try to draw a cube. And maybe something like that. It's cube, right? So maybe do a little cube practice. That's a bit like 3 point. I'm gonna sort of squash it back here too, because this is like really the essence of this book is, you know, perspective. So me drawing these cubes like this, just sort of like a warm-up for when I start trying to draw the heads and whatnot, because that's all this book is working with shapes like this, like going from the basic shapes and then you know, cutting and slicing pieces off to make them more complex. That's pretty much the essence of this book. So I'm just, right now I'm not even like looking at the book, I'm just trying to warm up a little. That's a little off. Kind of have like a grid coming this way. Yeah, just have like a understanding of just perspective, learning how, you know, just knowing how to I think I'm gonna just do like a small illustration of what I'm talking about. Like, say if this is the horizon line, right? I'm gonna use this like the picture plane, right? Like this. It's gonna be the picture plane right there. I'm gonna put one perspective, one vanishing point here, and then there, right? Then I'm going to sort of just try to freehand grid like that. The closer our line is to this, the horizon line, the closer it gets. Like if it's close to the horizon line, put it close, you know, and then the farther away it gets, push it farther. You know, especially if you're just trying to throw down a quick grid like this, throw it down farther. So maybe if I wanted to put a bit more, go right there, and I think that should be all right. Just put this up a little. Yeah. So this is the picture plane, horizon line. These are the vanishing points, right? And then that's how I created the grid. The closer the lines are to the grid, I mean to the horizon line, you should push them closer. The closer they get, push them closer to that horizon line. The farther they get, you know, really push them farther and farther away. Don't just do like, you know, lines like this. Close line, far line, close line, far line, you know? So, and then when you're going to put in boxes, you know, you just come in like this, just sort of match it up to those vanishing points. It doesn't have to be done perfectly. You know, it just has to be, this stage is just more about understanding what's going on in perspective. And then another thing is the closer, I don't really like that. The closer you get to the closer an object is, the bigger it is, and the farther away an object is, the smaller. So if you want to have an object that's small right here, boom, you just match it up to the dots, right? So I'm just drawing that because I'm sort of warming up by doing a drawing warm up also, but I'm just drawing that just so, because you're gonna look in this book, right? And a lot of the illustrations, they'll show you it from one angle, maybe one or two angles, right? Especially with the head, with the anatomy, with the core and the legs. I think it shows a bit more. But the thing about it is, you have to sort of gauge it on your own from these building blocks that he's giving you. So he's not going to give it to you in every angle, but if you have somewhat, if you have just a sort of you don't have to have an advanced knowledge of perspective. You just have to be able to know that how to turn and how to imagine what something, look at a shape like this and be able to be like, okay, let me just turn this basic shape around. Like, because I guess I see people saying that it doesn't really show you how to draw things at all the angles, every angle in this book. Like some books, they might just have like a bunch of illustrations and you just copy them like from a bunch of different angles. But this is more like, say, like with that squash cube for the head, right? It's sort of like this, like he gives me this sort of box right here with the neck, right? So I'm going here, I'm going there, right? Going there, like this. And then I'll put the neck on about there, kind of slope it down a little, bring it down here. And that's how sort of you get that, right? So he'll give you this one angle for that head, but since it's a block and it works in perspective, right? I can turn it this way, right? And I feel like this book is really good, especially if you're trying to still trying to brush up on your anatomy, your perspective drawing, because it still makes you think of things in perspective, right? So like that. So I can turn, just from using that block face, I can turn it, and maybe I can do something like this. Have someone looking up, right? Maybe the neck is right there. Maybe this is the base, right? So even just with that block face, like I can do the back of the head. This is the base. Sort of. But even just with that block of the head, right? I can turn it, flip it and turn it just from looking at this block of just this, from just this block out. This is the first illustration that he's showing you. This is the first thing he's telling you to do, is to grab a cube and squash it on the side so it's longer than it is wider, right? Already, you can start moving that around. So you don't have to, especially if you're working with in perspective, you don't have to ask those questions of how does this look from this angle or that angle. It's a block. Perspective, that's the essentials of this. You're just moving around blocks. So that's the beginning, right? And I'm gonna just put a vanishing point just so you can see kind of what's going on, right? This, I should have did the illustration black, but this is kind of like, they're going to sort of like the same vanishing point, and then these are going in the opposite directions. Like this is going over here. It's a little off, but it's a little off. You don't have to be perfect with the perspective, right? You don't have to be perfect, but as long as you have that general getting that general, you're capturing the idea in general. Like if I didn't draw those lines, you wouldn't really be able to know that it was off. The bottom of the chin was a little off from the top of the head. So I'm just gonna sort of show you, draw another one, but I'm gonna chop the back off of the head. So this is another thing that he talks about earlier in the first chapter is, sort of wedging and being able to planalize things and all that. But it's like sort of like you're cutting out a part of that wedge that you're using for the head, right? But I'm just doing the video now, but maybe off the video I'll just do a lot more practice just with the basic block. So it's going from this block for the head, right? And then it's getting chopped off at the back. So this portion of it is getting chopped off, right? So then it progresses to something like this, which I see a lot when I see people draw. I wonder if they get it from this book or maybe from from a similar source. It's sort of like this after you chop the back off. Sort of something like that. It looks a little short, but something like this, right? And when you're drawing from like books like these, take your time. You don't have to rush. Draw faster, you're not gonna learn faster. It's not like, I don't know. It looks a little long in the back, but that's sort of like the general idea. It's, you're gonna have to, put in that pen work to sort of get it, I'm kind of shortening it for some reason, but you're gonna have to put in that pen work to get everything the way that you want to get it, So this kind of book like this is not, you shouldn't be thinking about, especially when you're trying to learn, because I feel like people will get discouraged because they'll feel like, oh, I'm drawing so ugly and I'm not making a perfect illustration like right off the jump. It's like, you see how I'm drawing this, and I'm sort of trying to train myself to, I'm like, the back is a little too short. It's a little too long, and the front looks like flat. It looks like it's like spreading, like except for this being the side that's facing you, and this is the side that's facing away. It looks like both of them are facing, it looks like sort of like a blueprint for this, you know? But this is why you just have to continue drawing even when it gets a little frustrating, right? So it's saying that this shape resembles the skull much better, because the skull has a, you know, it has the face, it basically has three masses, like Hogarth was saying. It's the cranial, you know, it's the this is the frontal part of the skull, which I'm not sure, I forgot the zygomatics right here, but it's like the front of the skull, and then this is the mandible, like the jaw. So it's three parts, right? So you can, you know, that's why it's sort of like chopping it. And then it says it's remove 2/3, right? So this will be 2/3 of the shape. So now I'm gonna draw it from the side, right? Because you can look at some of the illustrations in this book and sort of copy them, but I feel like copying the illustrations in this book isn't really the way to go, because they're not, you know, they're not like other books where they're going to give you all these things from all different kind of angles, and you know, so you'll just be like sort of absorbing the whole like I feel like a Bern Hogarth book or something. I feel like that would be but if you want to copy something, maybe copy something like that, because it's just a lot of the illustrations that he does in that book are a lot more finished. But in this book, you shouldn't be worried about just copying. That's why if you just have this sort of understanding of perspective, right? Creating new vanishing points. But if you just have this, if you just have this right here, right? These building blocks right here, then a lot of this book, it will be a lot more understandable. Not that it will just be perfect. You'll just understand it like perfectly. But this is like the playground that he's giving you. He's just giving you like the building blocks. You know, he's letting you borrow his toys and put it, and you know, you just have to commit it to memory, whatever, learn the shapes that he's giving you to put it into this playground right here. It's not for really copying. It's like like I said, it's like a building block for you. You know. I'm gonna draw like two more. Like this, right? Don't want to shorten like the back too much. I don't want to keep these sort of like, even though I'm not exactly measuring where these are going, but you can see that these lines are going parallel. It seems like these lines are going towards something, even if they're not going towards the exact same point. I don't really think that absolutely matters, right? So now I'm gonna show you sort of how he's doing this from the side, sort of like this. That's so you can count the thirds, right? This 1, 2, 3, right? Sort of like that, right? So, I'll probably do like a little bit more, just because I don't want this video to be too long. But I'm gonna draw like how he's resembling. Let me see. Try to draw it from the top, maybe. And this line right here on the that will be maybe the occipital bone. You're going to try to get it halfway on the face, like match it up. match up halfway like that. This looks a little off, but that's fine. And I'm gonna just show you how the illustration in the book is sort of trying to illustrate how you're cutting out the back. So see, a book like this can be really fun if you just have to understand that a lot of these illustrations aren't just meant to be, and that looks off too. A lot of these illustrations aren't just meant to be copied. They're meant to be like, you know, used in the perspective grid, in the perspective setting. You know, if you're not trying to put this into a perspective setting, you're going to be frustrated. You're going to be wondering why, like, oh, these just look too complex. And I feel like you shouldn't be worried about the complexity at first. You should just be worried about how I'm absorbing these shapes from his book to put into my own playground.